No sound.
Okay, hello everyone. We are
No
excited to
sound.
have everyone here.
No sound.
Can everyone hear me?
Hello.
I
I
can hear
don't
you.
hear a thing.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, you're clear.
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So again, like I said, I'm
Shoot.
glad to have everyone here. We want to welcome you to our Careers in Smart Building Technology here at Houston Community College. As you can see here, this is going to be a preview of HCC's new Smart Building Technology program and how to gain real-world education in the industry. We do have some amazing panelists on here, which we'll be introducing in just a bit. But before we introduce our panelists, I do want to introduce Dr. Siddiqui, our HCC Central College president. And Dr. Siddiqui, would you go ahead and unmute yourself so that you can welcome everyone to our Smart Building Technology webinar?
Absolutely. So, thanks, Joe, all the faculty members and industry experts for joining this webinar. This is a very important webinar for disseminating information about our new Smart Building Technology program launching in fall 2023. Uh, for those who are relatively new to smart building technology, I would say smart building uh, actually converges different building-wide systems such as HVAC, lighting, alarms, and security into a single IT managed network infrastructure. And by this way, it collects the data from the user, like me, like other people in my family living in the building, apartments, retail center, and use machine language and artificial intelligence to create alerts, control our systems. So they learn about the building, about your habit, about your how your usage pattern of different devices, and there's a great deal of energy saving by understanding your behavior, when to put on lights, when to put off lights, when to alert you on any un obtrusive behavior, intrusion in your house, a lot of security thing. And perspective of energy conservation, I would say this program is very relevant to ongoing conversation about renewable energy and energy conservation. We know that we spend 90% of our lives in buildings, so they should be perfect place for all
Yeah.
we do. And from I'm reading data from Department of Education. uh, the total energy consumption by the residential and commercial sectors includes end-use consumption and electrical system energy is almost equal to 40% combined, including the energy losses in the system. 40% is a huge uh, segment of the total energy consumption in the United States. So you can understand the relevance of smart building technology program, and it offers a variety of career path to our students. A student can start with some electrical courses, and then they start learning about IoT, sensors, controllers, and you will hear more about it from experts. I'm not, of course, expert. And uh, there are multiple career pathways. All the high-rise buildings in Houston, all the new houses, new constructions, they have some sort of smart building technology components. So our intention at SCC is to prepare our students for working in modern buildings. They can work as a installer, they can work in maintenance, they can work in design, they can work for marketing and sales companies involved in smart building technology products and services. So there are a lot of opportunities for all students from all background, from all experiences and educational level. And I'm very optimistic about uh, our students will consider this program in their career pathway. With that, I would hand over my hand over to my session to Joe Smith Joe Sam, I'm sorry, for the next speaker in the webinar. Thank you all for listening and attending this webinar. Thank you.
Dr. Siddiqui, thank you so much for that welcome and that great briefing of the Smart Building Technology program that we offer here at HCC. So again, like Dr. Siddiqui just mentioned, I'm Joseph Sam. I'm the HCC Central Interim Director of Communications and Community Outreach Coordinator. I'm going to be the moderator and host for today, and I'm not going to take up too much of you guys' time. We want to make sure we stay on track with the timing for everything. So as we mentioned before, the rules basically of the webinar is to make sure you mute yourselves. We will have a question and answer part towards the end of the presentation. And then that's when you'll be able to ask your questions. You'll be able to raise your hand, and then I'll call on each person to have your questions directed to those panelists that we have. And speaking of the panelists, we want to go ahead and introduce our four amazing panelists right now. To start off, we have Mr. Matt Adams, who has been with the Houston Community College since 2014 and was brought on as an industrial electricity professor to teach manufacturing engineering courses for dual credit programs or HCC, as well as a list of regular classes, including print reading, industrial mathematics, safety, basic electrical theory, and so many more. So Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Joe. By the way, you just lost a PowerPoint, sir. Thanks for everybody showing up today. This has been 2 long years to get to this point. And there we go, there's PowerPoint. And so, next slide. If you were to ask me, what is the Smart Building Technology degree plan? First, I've got to go back 2 years that it's taken me to get to this point. During the summer, Dr. Siddiqui and then my dean, Chris Asper, and several of us had a meeting because one of the things they wanted to do was look at the future of technology and how it's impacting both residential and commercial. And so we had started by looking at starting a certificate in building automation, which deals more with environmental controls in buildings. Well, when I started doing the deep dive into it and started figuring out what it was and what wasn't, because before that point, my knowledge of smart buildings and smart homes, as they call them, which actually probably a better word's connected, was more like Ring and Google Assist and Alexa. And, you know, as I started delving into this industry and realized how deep down the rabbit hole I was going to go, and it kept going, it was pretty wild. And so as I started meeting people in this industry, I'd ask them, you know, what do you want? What do you want me to build? Here's a plain white sheet of paper. And luckily I got with people that do this for a living to really get an unbiased result. In fact, one of the best answers I ever got was, I need an electrician that can network. And so that was interesting. But as I developed myself to better be more receptive to understand what this needs to be, to see where it was going, it just kept growing. And every time I thought I hit a bottom, it just kept going deeper. And sometimes I thought I was really clever coming up with stuff, and some of my buddies that own companies like, oh, dude, we've been doing that for years. I was like, darn. But next slide. So one of the things about it, when you look at it, at this industry of, you'll hear what an integrator is later, but there's no rule to this, because nothing in this industry is turnkey off the shelf. There is nothing. It's all custom. And so one thing I found was interesting was I would ask one company, well, what kind of things do you connect in a home or a building? And they would be like, well, we do audio visual, we do security. And I'm like, okay, great. I'd go to the next company and they say, well, what do you do? Oh, we do security and fire. I'm like, but you don't do audio visual? Oh no, we don't do that. And so it was hard to find people that did some of the same things. And it was really what people found, I don't know, fascinating or whatever, that made them pick the different subject areas that they would install things. And so at the end of the day, the best way I figured out is there was no way to just do one thing or two things. So I did all things. And when you're in for a certificate, you might as well go in for an associate degree. And one of the coolest things is this is kind of one of the largest projects that anybody's ever undertook from this field. The problem that this industry have is technically, according to the Department of Labor, they don't even exist, even though they're thriving. Right now, the smart home industry, I think it was last year, was valued at 23 billion with a B dollars. By 2030, it's supposed to be valued in excess of 90 billion. That's just the home market, not even the commercial market. And part of the problem they're having is, as they call them, the gray hairs, they have a shortage of labor, so they need people to come into this field. And it was interesting, some of the different skills they need to combine it, because you need hands-on skills, because you're not going to sit in front of a computer in an air-conditioned room. You're actually going to be in the field putting this different technology in, and then connecting it to networking via Wi-Fi and wireless type methodologies, or a structured cabling, which is basically Ethernet fiber optics. Some kind of way these devices have to talk to one another. Next slide. So when I broke it down, these were the main key areas that I came across that a lot of people did. So like audio visual, we're going to actually have a whole 16-week semester class in audio and visual. And if you were to ask me back in the old days, audio visual, you hang speakers and like a sound bar and you hang a TV. That's it. And I can teach you that in like, what, 2-3 hours? But that class is going to be such a huge deep dive. And when you think about it, like at school, we have the sound systems and the projectors that we use in the classrooms to teach, as well as conference rooms and everything else. In fact, during COVID, we learned many lessons about broadcasting and stuff like that. So that's going to be a fun class. Lighting controls. Right now with solar and energy management, you've got how you generate power and how you store power. This degree plan is going to deal with how we utilize power, trying to use lower voltage, lower wattage type stuff, and making our spaces more energy efficient. Security, looking at how safe we are in a space. In fact, I like to coin it that in a way, the students that we're going to be training are going to be like digital concierges. They're going to basically set up spaces that control a person's comfort, their experience with a space, their safety, and things like this. And these are the types of things you're going to come across. Fire is a huge one. But then another one, I found one integrator, all he did was grocery stores. So retail and grocery stores, the front side, because that's such a huge thing as we shift how we interact with retail stores. Next slide. The support from the industry has been insane. It's great. I mean, I have found so many resources, so much support. In fact, 3 of the people I invited today or represent that aspect of that support, which I can't say enough great things about how industry's embraced what we're trying to do here at Houston Community College. So next slide. So what type of student do we need? And this is a statement that of things that I put together, especially from a gentleman out of Dallas who's one of the founding members of CEDIA, which you'll hear about CEDIA in a little bit. And kind of I got this off here. It's you have got to have this clever curiosity for solving unorthodox, off-the-wall problems, because there's no manual. It's not like if you hook up a Ring doorbell and they walk you through the steps. That would be great if that all worked that way, but this is next level. In fact, that's why I tell people, it's like this industry is like when you go to Wonderland, Alice in Wonderland, this is like the subterranean sub-basement of Wonderland, and it just keeps going. And so you have to know how to deal with all these different technologies, how to connect them, make them work in a space for your clients. So, and we'll have a certificate and we'll have an associate degree. Industry's rating for students, so please pass the word along, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the speakers. So now I'm going to pass it over to Joe Sam.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Matt, for that presentation. And we're going to be coming back to you towards the end of the presentation so you can explain to everyone how they can give that information to students on where they need to go to apply so that they can register for this program. Next up, we're going to have Mr. Lewis Rogers. He's a CEDIA certified electronic systems designer and founder of the low voltage integration firm InFocus Technologies. A 24-year veteran of the technology industry, Lewis' daily duties include complete custom system design and support of audio video, lighting control, networking, CCTV, and automated control system projects throughout the country. Having a self-starter attitude coupled with the forward-thinking mindset, Lewis was certain technology would become an absolute necessity for himself as well as every person in building. InFocus Technologies was formed as the means to provide these services to the ever-growing market. So we want to welcome Mr. Lewis Rogers to explain to us, as kicking off, what is an integrator. Mr. Lewis Rogers, thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Joe. And good afternoon, and thanks to everyone at HCC, faculty, staff, for having me today. Pretty excited about this program. I just want to say first off, I've been working with Matt for, I know it's been over a year for sure, on this program itself, and I feel like we put a lot of effort into it, and really has the program seems to really represent what we're needing in our industry. So I just wanted to add that little note. So an integrator, you guys have been hearing this term thrown around a little bit. What is an integrator? To me, it's easy. It's me. I'm an integrator. It's a fairly new term. It's been coined where in the past we've maybe been described as a smart home pro, maybe an IT guy, maybe a tech expert, the AV guy, and many other terms, right? But as an industry, we came together and kind of agreed that integrator really describes what we do and who we are. So in my opinion, an integrator is an individual who is incredibly highly skilled in many or even all aspects of technology, and that's including IT or information technology. An integrator is a tradesman. Don't get me wrong. We're out there in the field on new builds, new construction. We're just like a plumber. We're like an electrician, a carpenter. We're our work is done at the exact same time. Now, integrator is also a person who has the knowledge not only to implement these advanced technologies into a project, but also to consolidate all those different technologies into an interface that's easy to use for the client. So we basically take all the advanced systems, say if you have several different apps and things like that on your phone, an integrator is the one that's going to consolidate all those for you into one interface. It may be on a phone, a tablet, a touch screen, it may be on your television screen. There's many different ways that we do it to make it easy for the client to manipulate that system and all the different systems within that home. Integrators are also the people who you're going to rely on to design and support these electricians in the home and the building itself. So let's talk about a few of those different systems that we work with. There's many of them, but let's talk about a couple of them. If I can get my slide here. My apologies. 1 second, folks. Here we go. First one is control systems. So control systems are one of our most advanced tools that we use as integrators. Control system is basically what we use to facilitate the communication between all the different brands and different types of devices in a project. So it's also what allows us to create those customized interfaces for the client, which they'll use to manipulate all those different devices in their system that they ask us to either install, implement, or control for them within their home. So that control system is going to pretty much it's the translator between the different types of devices. It's the hub that every device is going to talk to. It's what we use to program the system for custom actions, custom scenarios that the client may have. And that's really, as far as I'm considered, that's one of our biggest tools for sure. Next up, distributed audio and video. This is one that I love. We also call it multi-room audio video. This is where we create the audio and video zones throughout a building, a home, or any space. And we use that previously mentioned control system to share content or sources to all those different zones within the building itself. So an example would be, say you have a 7-room house, but you only have 2 Apple TVs.
Okay, I'm
Well,
muted.
the integrator is able to take those 2 Apple TVs and share them throughout the house using the different zones and allow you to have power and volume settings all consolidated on your interface. Again, be that a tablet or a phone or whatever you choose. Next, we have CCTV. CCTV for us at InFocus is a staple. That's actually where our namesake came from. InFocus Technologies is staying in focus with your video footage. Is how that came about. We use security cameras for general surveillance. We use them in very custom applications. And again, we use that control system that I mentioned to consolidate all those video feeds into one interface for the client to make it very easy for them to use. Another one is lighting control. So lighting control has recently become a very hot topic in our industry. It's basically where we use connected lighting loads. It could be Philips light bulbs. It could be any different types of fixtures, other devices, connected light switches, anything like that. And we consolidate those again with the control system to allow our client to manipulate and have complete control over their interior as well as their exterior lighting zones. And lastly, one of the big ones that we have here is networking. One of the big reasons that we're able to create these advanced and sometimes very complex systems is we rely heavily on computer networking in the home, in the building, the internet. Everything communicates now somehow over the internet or the network. The majority of the devices that we use are gonna communicate over those networks. So it's imperative that we have the knowledge of basic networking at its very core, the different devices that we use, and that also allows us to support our clients remotely via the internet as well, if properly implemented. Real quick on DIY. DIY, do it yourself. So that's like the Ring doorbells, the Google devices and things like that. That gives people a very convenient way to add some convenience to their life, just like a video doorbell that you can purchase from local home improvement store, install the app, follow the prompts, get the device working fairly quickly. It's very easy for a quick solution. The next step in that is where an integrator would help you would be when that technology doesn't fit the bill any longer. So you need more advanced features. You need maybe some programming options. Maybe you want that video bell to fire off some different actions within the home. And it starts to get a little more complex at that point. So that's when you want to bring in an integrator to help you design those systems and make sure that they're stable and they're easy to use for sure. Let's see, next slide is CEDIA. So Matt mentioned CEDIA, which has been helping us throughout this process. CEDIA is an acronym that stands for Custom Electronics Design and Installation Association. This is the actual association that certified me. I am a CEDIA certified electronics designer. It was a very tough test, but this is what we're getting our students ready for in the job, and this is what's going to be required for them. People are going to look for these credentials. This is our industry association who basically has our backs as integrators worldwide. They are the best place for any client or anyone interested in integration or finding an integrator. They're the best place to start to find that information out and put you on the right path. They offer us a bunch of training throughout the year. They host a very large trade show called the CEDIA Expo that we'll be attending next month. And they've been like Matt said, they've been a great partner in this process, and we definitely want to give them a shout out for sure. And I think with that, I'm handing it back to Mr. Joseph.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lewis, thank you so much for all of that great information. And thanks again for being here, providing that to us. Our next presenter, we want to go on over to Mr. Kelly Ryan. And I'm going to just quickly explain a little bit about Mr. Ryan before we have him come on to share some information as well about the smart building technology and industry. So first off, Mr. Kelly Ryan, he's been involved in the electronic security and fire alarm industry in Texas since 1991. His experience ranges from system sales, installation, and service to wholesale equipment, distribution, and monitoring services. As the current president and school director of the Texas Burglar and Fire Alarm Association, he is actively involved in state legislation activities as well as industry training. He also serves on the board for the False Alarms Reduction Association and the National Electronic Security Alliance. So without further ado, I want to bring on Mr. Kelly Ryan so that he can share some information with us as well about the smart building technology industry. Mr. Ryan, thanks again for joining us.
And Joseph, thank you very much for having me. Big shout out to HCC and all the work going on, and definitely all the legwork Matt has done. It's been an incredible process to be a part of and to watch it unfold. And as Matt mentioned, there is a serious need for new people to enter into the industries. And when I speak of the industries, my part specifically is speaking more along the electronic alarm and life safety industries, which would include sales, installation, service of alarm systems such as burglar alarms, access control, surveillance systems, fire alarm systems or fire detection, which would also include, like, say, sprinkler monitoring, as well as audio video, because more and more of the traditional alarm companies find themselves getting into audio video and not necessarily diving in with a full bunch with a full load of experience. And that's where, like Lewis mentioned, with CEDIA is a fantastic resource for companies to get into or to use when they're talking about audio video. And just real quick on that, I will say that I know an industry veteran here in the Houston area who's been putting in systems quite some time, including like the home theater type systems. And he admitted to me one day, I used to work the CEDIA shows quite a bit. He admitted to me one day that he took one of the CEDIA basic home theater 101 classes. And he knew going in that they weren't going to tell him anything new, right? He already had it all. And when he got done with the class, he was shocked to find out how much he didn't actually know. So CEDIA is a fantastic resource, and glad for Lewis to come on and mention them. They are a really good group. So for us in the electronic alarm and life safety industries, sales, installation, service all tend to kind of tie in. Not all companies do all three. There are plenty of companies out there that just specialize, say, in service, or companies out there who just specialize in installation and that tend to contract out those services. And a lot of times that is kind of labor driven, because depending upon the ability to find people who are willing to enter into the industry and learn the ropes, if you will, can be kind of difficult. But that also includes central station services. And if you're not familiar with that, you may already be familiar with it, but when an alarm system, say like a fire alarm or a burglar alarm, an elevator emergency call phone, when systems like that, the personal emergency response systems, we've all seen the ads for help, I've fallen, can't get up. When those get in, they don't just call 911. Matter of fact, they're not able to do that. Oftentimes I've heard people say, oh, it contacts 911 for me. Well, not directly. It goes through a central station. And that central station is there to verify the signal, make sure it's a true signal, and before dispatching out and using municipality or county services as such to respond. So central stations are also licensed here in Texas. They're also licensed to operate, and they are registered with UL and inspected by UL. It is it's a carefully placed set of rules that manage, say, alarm systems and central station and the way they operate to make sure that they are doing the right thing. But central stations do more than just respond to burglar alarms or elevator calls or fire alarms. They also will utilize video verification. So with the way technology is now, it's so much easier to tie a video system in with, say, a burglar alarm system. So when the signal hits the central station, the operators already have the cameras up in place and they can kind of see what's going on. And this is a huge step forward from the way it used to be. And I'll talk a little bit about the evolution of equipment here in just a minute. But so we have video verification, which helps in reducing false alarms, as well as video monitoring, where it's not necessarily a signal received, it's analytics that are watching the video. And if the analytics determine that something might be or might require attention, then that video is presented to a central station operator for them to take a look at and see what's going on. Most of the time, it's for like outdoor cameras and stuff, it tends to be, making sure that they don't try to dispatch because an animal walked on the property. They're obviously looking, specifically for people or the types of behavior that would require a response from, say, law enforcement. But video is also used in the fire business as well to help verify fire alarms, to make sure that that we're not unnecessarily rolling fire trucks in an event like that. So the industry works by presenting a solution to either, say, like a homeowner or a business owner. We can even get into, say, large scale control equipment for processing, because an alarm system doesn't necessarily just watch a door contact or a motion detector. An alarm system can also be used to check things like temperature levels, humidity levels, make sure that equipment is operating properly, and can be used to alert the right type of people if, say, the temperature in a freezer gets too high, right? So there's more to it than just, say, a burglar alarm system. The evolution of that equipment, and Joseph made me feel kind of old there when he told everybody that I got into 91, but control systems used to actually be pretty straightforward. They came out of the box, you wired up a power source to it, you wired your zones into it, a keypad on it, and you put a phone line on it to talk to the central station. And they have, whereas that type of product per se is still available, the newer types of products use newer technologies, newer wireless technologies that are much more reliable than, say, just even 10 years ago, in order to, one, make the installation easier, maybe make it more aesthetically pleasing, maybe prevent or take away the need for running exposed cable in certain situations. So the industry itself has done a great job, and I know Greg Gordon is going to speak as far as the manufacturing side of things. the industry itself has done a great job in keeping up with what the consumer needs and the consumer wants. And so that being said, monitoring communications has changed drastically as well. Most of the time, people nowadays don't even have a landline, say for their house, right? That's almost a thing of the past. There's still a few out there, but it's almost a thing of the past. And in the past, it was where an alarm system was hooked up to the telephone line. It would pick up the phone line. It would make a call into the central station and drop a signal. The communication systems of alarm systems still function that way per se, but they use most of the time nowadays third-party communication equipment, either over the internet or over cellular to get those signals into a central station, which is nice because a lot of times what you see there is a little bit more reliability on getting that signal to the central station. So what the takeaway of that is the average installer of today is exposed to more high-tech equipment than, say, the average installer of the mid-90s. And so that's increased the need for more specific training. And training is flat out one of the more difficult things a lot of times to obtain in the industry. We have traditionally had to always rely on, say, manufacturers and distributors to set up training classes. And that's all good and well, but a lot of times as people would complain to me, they would say, the training classes that are available are just sales pitches on equipment. And to some extent, that does happen that way. But companies like Resideo, which Greg Gordon works for, they have specific technical trainers that come out and actually set up classes and stuff, but it's more of a one-on-one type basis in situations like that. But so as control systems have improved, as monitoring communications have improved, as wireless technologies have improved, it's really sharpened up the types of equipment that are out there. And then when you throw in smarter equipment and equipment that is, say, utilizing touch screens, ability to use your phone to control it, that again puts the installer in a position where they need to know more technical aspects of the installation in order to get it complete and actually having it run right. I remember back, oh gosh, this is probably getting close to 20 years ago, when IP cameras really first started kind of hitting the scene, and a lot of the security guys almost kind of, well, they really did. They shied away from them, mainly because they didn't really understand the way the networks were working. And so it kind of opened up a situation where more network guys started getting into the security industry because they understood networks. Nowadays, I don't know if you can actually even get an analog camera off the shelf at a local distributor. Maybe it's possible, but I don't know why you would. So as that has improved, and now the alarm systems are talking to the video systems, and working together and communicating with the central station, it has become more complex. And as that evolution was occurring, I would hear people say all the time, the Texas Burglar and Fire Alarm Association needs to partner up with a college in order to provide proper training for this, to get people who can enter into the industry that aren't requiring manufacturer-specific training, who have a good rounded education of how the systems work. And so what the Texas Burglar and Fire Alarm Association at heart does, compared to, say, CEDIA, TBFAA is really a group that tends to watch regulations, try to make it so that we don't all of a sudden get laws that really restrict the ability to do business. We want to make it an easier path for folks to get in, because we are trying to attract more folks into the industry. But the TBFAA also supplies certain trainings A lot of time in a couple of those, well, 3 of those classes per se are actually required by the state of Texas for a security license. So those types of trainings are always being put on, and typically that's when people would come up and say, you guys really need to partner with a college in order to make something happen. And I will say, this has been discussed for a long time. And if we went way back in the past, there was a real healthy communication with what used to be known as Dallas Community College years gone by, but nothing could ever get off the ground. And so after meeting Matt and hearing about what he was doing, the excitement level really rose up. It is definitely, there's definitely a void out there for this type of program. And so kudos to Matt for putting this on. So within the TBFAA obviously handles state affairs and watches what goes on, say at Austin at the Capitol as far as changes in laws are concerned. But here locally in the Houston area, we have the Houston Gulf Coast Alarm Association, which kind of functions similar to TBFAA. They have monthly meetings. They bring in guest speakers. The idea is to find ways to improve the industry overall, to make sure that people who are entering know the resources that are available to them. And HCCAA is also a big proponent of, well, and TBFA as well, big proponents of scholarships. And so with HCC coming on with this program and already having an existing scholarship program available through TBFA and HCCAA, we definitely view that as a win-win, and we are extremely happy and ready to help HCC get this program going and love to see it happen. So a couple things, I guess. Lewis had mentioned CCTV, right? And which back in the past, right, CCTV, stood for closed circuit television. And while that term still gets used, a lot of times it's used more by folks with more than a few years experience, just because it was truly a closed circuit at that time. With it going online, being able to access it through your phone, it's not necessarily a closed system anymore. Right? And so the evolution of CCTV has gone from tube cameras to just regular, what we know as the older surveillance cameras, now to IP cameras. But in the past, we would have to have big power hungry PTZs with huge lenses on them in order to, say, provide surveillance for parking lots. Whereas nowadays we can do smaller fixed cameras with megapixel images where the manipulation of the video can be done as such to where it would rival most of the old PTZs from the past. So that's kind of nice to see. But also, they're becoming smarter with video analytics. The software is able to view kind of what's going on and determine beforehand if something needs attention, and that helps alleviate a little bit of the pressure on, say central station operators, in watching the video. So that is kind of nice to see. So it's great to see the evolution of the products, the evolution of the services. But in order for that evolution to be successful, we have to have people on board. We have to have trained people who are willing to get involved. And so with the program that Matt is putting together, we fully expect to see a nice jump up in the promotion of these industries, of the alarm industries, and fire alarm and burglar alarm and surveillance as well. So with all that being said, I guess right at this point here, I'll swing it back over to Joseph, unless there's anything specific that you would like me to address. But I definitely appreciate you guys for what you've done, what you're putting together, and TBFAA is definitely here to help.
Mr. Ryan, we want to thank you for all of your amazing support throughout this program and the other programs that you've helped and contributed on. This is going to be exciting for a lot of the younger generation because, as you mentioned, we need all of this to happen in order for us to continue pushing forward and to continue evolving. and to have our lives as easy as we have it right now, because of course all of these things weren't offered before in the past. So another great presenter. We're going to come back to you. I'm sure we're going to have some questions at the end for you, Mr. Ryan, but we're going to move on to our next presenter, another proud supporter of Houston Community College. We have Mr. Greg Gorton, who serves as the district manager for Resideo. And this offers top of the line home automation solutions to set up your best smart home system, including smart thermostats, security cameras, and so much more. He also serves as director of operations of Ranger American. And in his spare time, he enjoys spending time with his 6 children and competing as a professional bodybuilder. So this is actually something cool as well. You have a lot going on, Mr. Gorton. But also with that, as competing as a professional bodybuilder, speaking of fitness, he's also married to a bikini pro. And when not training himself, he serves as a national trainer for Honeywell. So, Mr. Greg Gorton, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring you on over for a great presentation. I'm sure this is completely different from you competing on stage.
A little bit. It's kind of funny because a lot of stuff I end up relating back to bodybuilding, because without line upon line and precept on precept, you can't grow your body or your business. And part of understanding what's happening in the market to grow your business is understanding what has changed. And part of what Houston Community College is doing is grasping what has changed and putting it into a class. So we had this nasty little virus that happened a couple weeks ago. You guys heard about it. It really put a microscope onto what is happening in the home, because people now are spending a lot more time. Businesses have people working from the home, coming about 2-3 days out of the week. But what they really noticed is the increase in, of course, food deliveries to the house, which meant people had more pajama bottoms coming in. But people were looking for more from the home. The demand for Wi-Fi, for indoor air quality, security, even water quality went up. And I want you to take a look at this little slide here. More than half of these things that increased in desire in the home related back to the comfort of the home. Now, Dr. said it much better than this, because everything is focused around how we feel in our home. What makes us feel safe? What makes us feel good? What gives us comfort? The fact that, once again, my AC bill came down a little bit because I was able to control it. That I'm not going to walk out and see that my hot water heater blew up, or there's a leak somewhere in the house I didn't know about. All this stuff, people were more desirous to be connected with. And that's what we saw change, because now it's right there in front of you. So with Wi-Fi and internet and broadband coming up, the comfort and quality of the home went up as well, because now I'm sitting here looking at it. So even the security of things, comings and goings. Is there someone coming to the back door while I'm upstairs in my office? Is there a light left on somewhere? Is the air door, is the AC working well in all parts of the house? I can have multiple sensors throughout the house that interact with each other and tell me what's going on. We need integrators today that can understand all of this. In the past, we've always been in kind of silos. Next slide, please. In the past, we've always had silos where it was air, it was security, it was water, it was energy, it was those interactive sources that's involved in. Well, the new tech of the future needs to be able to do all of this. In the past, you have one guy, okay, I'm a security guy. No, I'm an HVAC guy. No, I'm the plumber. We're finding a lot more of these service providers are wanting to understand how to tie all of this together, and they're going to have to. All of this stuff is connected through some sort of router or smart device in the home. And if you're not performing a white glove service because your technicians are trained and well qualified, they'll find someone else who can. And that's what I really love about what HCC has done, is they have taken this whole idea where, instead of just piecemealing a company together or a technician, let's make this technician such a well-rounded guy. He can go into any particular situation because of his training or her training and figure this stuff out. And that's really what it boils down to. So much has changed because so much more is connected now. Everything can talk to everything else. Let's take a look at the next slide to see what's changed. So throughout this process, people have said, okay, comfort of the home, my safety security. Obviously, we've seen doorbells, smart doorbells increase. But what we saw almost quadrupled in desire was a safe, smart home, like with smoke detection. And that's something to have often kind of baffled me. Okay, smoke detection, why is that so important? Well, if I'm not at home and something happens, just like Kelly said, a central station can respond to that home and service you in a way that you can't while you're gone. Also, with interactive services tying all this stuff up together, I can be told if something's happening in my home. So the smart doorbell, the camera, the leak detection, the outdoor light control, all of that is tied in. Just literally last night, I was laying in bed and I said, did I close the garage door? And I pulled up my app and I took a look. I felt comfortable in my home. I have to get up, go downstairs, go look at the garage door and see if it's closed. I can look at the camera, look at the contact and know and get feedback from my bed. I mean, is it lazy? Yeah, but you know what? I'm comfortable with it. I feel good about it. Our technicians these days need to understand all of this. We're going to tie this all together with one. Everything out there has some sort of app. We all have, like Dr. said, everything has something to control by the phone, or it can be controlled by the phone. But what our technicians are missing is the back end of this. Is not just the wire, it's not just the security panel, it's not just the video piece all along with this. But this is also the ability to tie all of this together to have it in your hand anywhere you go. If you leave the country, my wife went on vacation a couple weeks ago and we left the house here. I could easily take a look and see what was going on with my home and how everything was going. That if I have a dog walker coming in, if I have a maid coming in, if I have lawn guys coming out, all of this stuff can be remotely viewed and controlled no matter where you are in the world. And as technicians come to these homes, they need a one-stop shop contact for people. So likely with your business as well. When you hire a technician that comes out of this HCC program, he will give you, or he or she give you the ability to have white glove service offering to your people. Because not only will all this stuff you're seeing here is connected by an app, but it's pulled together by a hard router in your home. People need to understand that. See a network, the training that goes involved with that, and tie all this stuff together. So now your technician knows networking, your technician knows lighting, your technician knows security, your technician knows comfort, your technician knows energy savings, and all of this will provide you as a business owner with a better quality technician and more business. And that's what, I mean, I used to be like you said in the past, director of operations for Ranger. If I could get more business and you could show me how to increase it just a few more percentages, I would do it. And that's what I see coming out of this group here out of HCC is a well-trained technician to help you grow your business because they are well-rounded. And I'll give your time back.
Mr. Gordon, thank you so much for all of that great information. And I love how pinpointed you were with all of the information that you provided. So this is going to be something that a lot of people can take back and understand exactly what it is that we need to do when it comes to the smart building technology and this entire industry as a whole. So I know we do have a couple of more minutes left in the webinar, and we do have some questions that are already being posted in our chat feature here on WebEx. So you guys can continue posting your question. I see Mr. Ryan is already answering some of those questions for you. But for those of you who still have any other questions, if you want to raise your hand, I can go ahead and call on you so that you can ask your questions to the panelists that we have while we still have some time left in the webinar. Does anyone have any questions?
We might want to answer Giovanni's question about will students be automatically CEDIA certified upon graduation from the program?
Awesome. Yeah, let's go ahead and answer that. I'm sure that's a question for you, Matt.
And, well, actually, Lewis, he has a unique role with CEDIA, and so I think he could really answer that one.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, sure thing. So the certification is one thing that we definitely were focused on. So I know, and Matt can definitely correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, but I know the graduate program for sure. The students will actually, I can tell you both programs, right, Matt? So both
The
programs,
certificate and the associate degree, we're going to get both of the, have the ability to test for both of them.
yes, yes. So the students in the certification program will earn their technician's certification, their CEDIA technician certification. From the graduate program, I believe we're
The IST is the higher level one from the associate degree.
IST. That's correct. So that's the two basic certifications. Above that, you have networking and designer. So I'm a CEDIA certified designer, and then you have a CEDIA certified networking technician. But they will have those certifications for sure.
And they don't get them upon graduation. They actually have to take a test.
Correct.
And then they pay money to take the test, but then once they do that, then they get that credential.
Correct.
But it's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And then I'm going to go to another question that we have in the chat. I know, like I said, Mr. Ryan is answering some, but for those of you who didn't get a chance to take a look at the chat, we have Shannon who just sent in the chat, can a central station services be offshored to lower cost call center, or is it restricted by law? Who wants to take that question?
I'll be glad to chime in on that. Let me just start off by saying most companies do not utilize an offshore call center. There are a handful right now of companies that will send video feed to a location in say in India if the analytics determines that something needs to be looked at. And it's at a first level type situation there. And if the folks working at that particular facility in India see something that they think needs to be elevated, then it is actually sent to a facility in the US for the operators to look at as well. But most do not do that. Analytics has really helped out a lot with preventing false alarms, especially off a direct video feed. But in order for a dispatch to be made or called in as an alarm in the state of Texas, the company that's employing the alarm monitor being the person at the call center that's calling it in, that company has to be licensed, and that alarm monitor also has to be licensed. Regardless if they're in Texas or out of Texas, they would have to have a state of Texas license to do so. And so, because matter of fact, and the city of Houston is pretty good about this, if they receive a call from a company that is not licensed and that is trying to dispatch on an alarm call, that the city of Houston, any municipality in the state of Texas can do it, but the city of Houston will fine the alarm monitor for calling that in without a license. And it has happened multiple times, because I'll get calls from out-of-state companies who are trying to monitor in Texas that don't have a Texas license, and they're asking me, can the city of Houston really fine us for this? And yes, it is actually it's part of local government code 214 in the state of Texas. And Matt is really familiar with 214 because that's the power that gives, or that's the law, if you will, that gives the cities the power to have electrical inspections, for example. So yes, this licensing is important in Texas. It's a necessary process that takes place, and there's a whole bunch of reasons, and I don't want to get off into tangents about it. But as it is right now, it's designed for the good of the consumer and to basically protect the business that's in Texas. So it for a company outside of Texas to operate here, they have to pay their dues and pay their licensing the same as a company that does operate in Texas. So that means there is a way to do it some offshore, but the majority, the flat out, I'm going to say it's probably 95 to 99% do not do anything offshore right now. And it's interesting because as an industry, we're kind of keeping an eye on it as well. But it may be offshore, but it's not offshore where the communication from an individual offshore being made to, say, a municipality or even to an end user, it's going into a U.S. facility, and that U.S. facility then determines whether or not a dispatch should be made. Hopefully that helps.
Well, and one thing while you're talking to Kelly on the subject matter real quick, about the security and fire licenses and how they align with this program. So you might want to talk about that also real quick since we're.
Yes. And so that is one of the things that Matt and I have discussed in the past about being able to help an individual on, say, there's two licenses in Texas. There's the license for security. The security license includes, burglar alarm systems, access control systems, surveillance systems. Because if you read the way the occupation code in Texas is written for that, it all bundles up under, quote, an alarm license. And then there is a fire license. The alarm license is issued by the Department of Public Safety and audited by the DPS. And the fire license is issued by Texas Department of Insurance, which has a division underneath it called the Texas State Fire Marshal's Office. So it's two different entities. There's two different licenses, one for security, one for fire. Individuals who are wanting to enter into the industry and go through HCC would have the opportunity to get their license before, specifically in security, before they actually got hired by a company. And that is an attractive point for companies out there, integrators out there that are, say, using security, to have somebody who is applying or would like to go to work for them that already has their security license in place. The security license for installers in the state of Texas for alarm systems really boils down to making sure that they have a clean background. As a comparison, the license for fire alarm systems, it's called an FAL, a fire alarm license. That fire alarm license could be obtained before going to work for a company, but it doesn't allow the individual to do any work without being assigned to a company. So the FAL by itself won't let them actually do any work. But the FAL, unlike the DPS, isn't wholly dependent upon a background check. Yes, there is a background check for an FAL, but there is a technical exam that I will tell you, folks who do not properly prepare for this technical exam, it's probably about a 75 to 80% failure rate. It is not an easy test. And so part of what the idea is with HCC is to help prepare people to take that fire alarm technical exam in order for them to get their FAL, if they so chose to, before going to work for a company. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that is awesome. That was a great explanation. Thank you again, Mr. Ryan. We have two more questions. Before we get ready to wrap up, I see Miss Beverly has her hand raised. You can go ahead and ask your question, unmute yourself.
Okay, what I want to know is, are we as instructors going to have to be licensed to teach the classes?
No. To teach the class, a license isn't required. The exception would be on if a specific class was done for what we refer to as a residential alarm license, which is actually a lower level license within the State Fire Marshal's Office, then the instructor for that particular class requires what they refer to as a residential alarm superintendent license. The thing is the RAL instruction and test is an 8-hour class and test administered by the state or overseen by the State Fire Marshal's Office. What HCC would do would be to prepare individuals not for that lower level RAL license, but for their full fire alarm license, what we refer to as an FAL. And an instructor is not required to have a license in order to teach the necessary product, if you will, or the information behind obtaining an FAL, but they definitely have to have a pretty good concept of what's behind the FAL process, and we start getting into NFPA 72, NFPA 70 to some extent, and Life Safety 101, which can get rather complicated. But a license to teach it isn't required. You just have to really know the information.
Perfect. Thanks again, Mr. Ryan. We're going to go to one more question in the chat. I'm not sure if this was answered yet or not, but Dennis has a question asking, will there be any future courses of learning for industrial/commercial smart building technology, controls, BAS, fire, life safety, etc.?
So I'll take that one. So the BAS refers to building automation systems, which we're not going to be teaching in this degree plan, but we do have building automation in our HVAC program. And the reason why is, I mean, you could really, to look at this whole connected environment, I mean, it's, you got to cut limits at some point. We would be doing controls and things like this, but mainly we're going to be dealing with the audio visual, the lighting, the fire, the security, and that type of environment. So we will be dealing with some of that fire and life safety, but not so much the BAS. And at the current controls, it just depends on which actual controls you're talking about. But we will be teaching controls. We will be teaching those hands-on skills, not just theoretical stuff. So I'm not sure if that kind of answers completely what you're looking for, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's coming off. He's probably going to let us know in the chat or not. But
Yeah,
speaking,
I said thank you.
oh
And,
yes,
and,
perfect.
and that leads me to this other thing. Anybody that's got any questions, feel free to email me also. Because I mean, that's one of the things. I'm not sure if you have a slide for that, Joe, on if they want to apply or anything like that. But my email is walter.adams@hccs.edu. And I'll put it in the chat box also. So
Yeah, I was just about to say, if you can put that in the chat box so that people can reach out to you for any questions. And you can also email me for any follow-up questions as well by responding directly to the link that was sent to you. With that being said, I know we're running a little late and behind with the closing, so I'm going to thank everyone for participating in the webinar today. I'm sure Dr. Siddiqui wouldn't mind if we do another one like this here, because there was some really valuable information that was being shared by our presenters. Again, a huge thank you to Mr. Matt, yourself, Mr. Greg, Mr. Kelly, and Mr. Lewis for providing all of that great information about the industry and about the program that we're going to be starting up here at Houston Community College. This is going to be exciting for a lot of students looking to get into this field. This is, I believe, where the future is going, and where it currently is now is making, like I said earlier, our lives a whole lot easier. And we need the people that have the education to get these things done in those places so that we can continue living an easier life and a more efficient life with all of these different areas of concentration that you can go into with smart building technology. So with that being said, I'm going to toss it over to my panelists. Does anybody have any closing remarks that you would like to add before we head out for the day? All right, I think we're good. Again, thank you all for joining us. Dr. Siddiqui, thanks for having us all here again today and providing this platform for us so that we can talk about the program that we have upcoming here at Houston Community College. Again, like I said, we probably are going to be planning another one of these once school semester starts so that we can get even more students to take part in this webinar and learn more from industry professionals on this here. I think that's going to be coming up pretty soon to where we can offer that to students, and especially within high school that are getting ready to start their college career and their college journey. But with that being said, you guys, thank you again for joining us on the Smart Building Technology webinar in our real world educations for Houston Community College. I will let you all go to enjoy the rest of your day.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.